All right, welcome to Michael's Record Collection. On this installment, we're going to be talking with Billy Sherwood from Yes. He got a new project called Arc of Life. The artwork is here above me, behind me. Billy, thanks so much for taking the time out to talk to me tonight.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So I, I guess the first question has to be, I mean, this is a project that you put together with John Davis and Jay Shellen. These are guys you've been with. And yes, why a new project? Why Arc of Life? What prompted you to start this?
Uh, it started from songwriting, which is how a lot of the bands I've been in the past have started. John and I shared a bus on a Yes tour, and I had my studio set up in the back, and we got together just for fun and started knocking some ideas around. And they started taking on a life of their own and seeming like it might. Obviously, it's not heading for Yes, or it's not heading this direction or that direction. It was its own thing.
Mhm.
And so we started talking band, and it was at that point that Jay, Jimmy, and Dave got involved, and here we are now. You know, that period was quite lengthy because we were doing a lot of touring, but basically started in 2017. So, but that's how it came to be.
Well, you've worked with Jimmy before with Circa, with Yoso. I think he's done some stuff for Yes. How did you get involved with Dave Kersner?
Well, I've known Dave for ages now, and I've played on a few of his projects, and we've been threatening to do something together forever. So this just seemed like the right vehicle and the right time to try to do this. So I'm excited about that. He's a great talent.
He really is. I've had a chance to listen to the tracks from Arc of Life a few times now to get a little familiar with them. I think that some of it is adjacent to maybe Heaven and Earth era, yes, but I think you went for some new sounds on this. Can you just kind of walk me through what your process was on this particular project? What was inspiring you? What were you thinking in terms of the sound that you wanted?
Well, I think the sound comes by proxy of the individuals involved as a source thing of the sound. That's a big part of it. And then just looking to sort of give it its own shape sonically as you're starting to produce the record and get things going, and how it's being treated in the vocals and how you're approaching the rhythm section. And so all those things combined, they start equaling an identity all its own, whilst feeling like other things by just virtue of who we are. I mean, everybody knows we play with Yes, so everybody thinks this is going to sound like Yes.
Mhm.
So to a lot of people's ears, it does feel that thing inside, like you would feel a Yes thing. But there's also influences from all of our past involved, because all musicians are influenced by other musicians. So
Mhm.
I hear some Beach Boys and some UK and some Gentle Giant and Mahavishnu, and I hear a lot of different influences coming through. I
When
think
you
the Yes thing is the most obvious because we're guys from that band.
Right. When you guys put this album together, what was the writing process like? Was it mainly you and John? Did you guys get together as a band? Did you throw ideas across the internet at each other? How did that come
The,
about?
the, John and I wrote most of what we've got here on the first record, just because of the nature of how this thing came together, where we were on the road together and had time together to hang out and do that. That said, the next record, I could see us all getting together in a room and exploring all different kinds of ideas and trying to record it and write it as a band. But we'll see where it goes. But there's a lot of talented songwriters in the band as well. That the songwriting wasn't a factor when we were putting the album together, because we'd already started framing the house, so we knew what we had. Which is kind of how World Trade came about. Bruce and I wrote a couple of tunes, and one thing led to another, and before we knew it, we had to put a band together. So these things happen in weird ways, but on this one, it happened through John and I writing a lot.
When I saw the band line up, and John has his very distinctive voice. You have a very distinctive vocal style. How did you guys sort of determine what parts each of you would sing? There's a lot of your lead vocals on here, which was I think I found it a little surprising, because because John's involvement as a vocalist, but I think there's some great harmonies in this record. How did you kind of trade off on the leads?
Well, we kind of thought about it being like a 50-50 thing in a way, like Supertramp is, or
Mhm.
Pink Floyd, or the Eagles, or so many of those great bands that can throw the lead vocal around into different departments. So we knew that, and we wanted to take advantage of that and kind of try to go right down the line in terms of how much who's doing what. But there's also a natural timbre to a vocals range and where it's written. I used to sing very high up, but now I sing a little bit more mid-range high. He floats way up there, so it's kind of obvious where that cutoff point is for me and him. So we just kind of look at it that way and figure out whose voice sounds better singing the words, and kind of just make those decisions as we go.
Now, this pandemic thing that we've got going on, were you guys able to get together? Were the parts all recorded separate and sent to you? How did the whole
Well,
production come apart?
the record was recorded before the pandemic kicked
Okay.
in. And it started, as I said, in the back of a bus in my mobile studio, shaping things and getting vocals together. And then John and I had a couple of months off here in LA between Yes tours. We got together. He had a house out here for a while, and we got together at his place and set up and recorded the remainder of the vocals. And then once that was in place, I went into the studio with Jay, and Jay and I recorded together to get the rhythm sections, feeling that dynamic between two people happening. And after that, Jimmy was in Utah sending files down to me in California, and same with Dave in Florida. It was kind of a hybrid of old school and new school, and how you can do things together and still do things file share. But at the end of the day, it feels and sounds very much like a band, which is kind of how I mix anyway. I want it to feel like you're listening to a band.
So you mentioned you mixed it. Are you the sole producer of this work?
I produced it, but the band really also had a big hand in just the creativity of it. So I consider it like a group production. And Derek Shulman was also involved, helping with the arranging and bouncing ideas off of me and back and forth to formulate things. He took a really, close look at stuff that I maybe was looking at too closely myself, and would give me a different perspective. So there was that as well. But for the most part, the home base of it is here at my studio, what I'm in now.
Were there any lyrical themes that you, not necessarily like a concept album, but were there lyrical themes that were on your mind when you did the writing for this?
They kind of come to you when they come to you, and it's odd because now with Corona, it seems like some of these songs were written for this moment. So that's a purely coincidental factor. Lyrics come when they come, and about what they come is kind of in the moment for me. For instance, Talking with Siri is a song I've been talking about in this regard, where I came home from a gig after a Yes show and got back to my hotel room and said to Siri, "Can you please set my alarm for 7:30?" She said, "Yes, your alarm's set." I said, "Thank you." She said, "You're welcome." And we started going back and forth. And I asked it, "Do you dream?" And it said, "Electric sheep, but only sometimes." And I thought, that's weird. And then I asked it, "Do you love?" And it said, "Who, me?" And it was kind of around that moment that I thought, this is a song here. And so I sketched out a little idea in my head, brought it to John the next day, and we started hashing it out. So these things come from very strange inspirations, but I always travel with a studio, portable world of mine, so that if I do get that inspiration, I can somehow get it archived in a way that is meaningful, and I can come back to it later, not forget it.
Yeah, Talking with Siri was an interesting one. The first time I listened to it, I wasn't sure I liked it all that much. It wasn't apparent to me. It was something that revealed itself on repeat listens as to having a really cool kind of little groove to it, and you kind of pick up on that the more you listen to it, and it actually became probably one of my favorites on the record.
Oh,
Was when you wrote these songs, was you know there wasn't like a lot of there's not like a lot of pop immediate earworms that hit you immediately. This is an album that has layers to it, and I know that with Yes, that's a big part of what Yes does,
Mhm.
and with you guys together, it just seems like this that you guys were going for something that was a little more um, of a slower burn than some of your other projects like Circa and Yoso and that.
Right. Well, I think that it's, there's a simplicity factor involved in this record that's kind of cool and that we were all digging. But it also is like meeting this complex factor, and they sort of meet in the middle, and they work against each other and with each other at times. So it makes for a very interesting backdrop over a very simple song sometimes. You know what I mean? So I think that all those ways of looking at making music, it gives it its own shape in there. And for me, it's about the melody and the lyrics and the song that I'm hearing, and then kind of trying to fashion an arrangement that's super interesting around it. I'm not so much interested in just shredding and listening to fast guitar playing and bass playing. And I want to try to make it move someone emotionally in the lyric or even in the chordal arrangement, and give people a minute to feel it and think about it. So maybe those going at it that way has produced this kind of album you're talking about. I don't know, but you know, we just knew that we had to entertain ourselves and be enjoying it a lot before we wanted to release it out there to everybody, which is, it's a selfish thing being a songwriter, because until you like it, you don't want anyone to hear it. So
Yeah.
we went through a serious microscoping, that's for sure. All of it.
On this album, you've got two songs that are between 9.5 and 10 minutes long, and they're back to back. Was that an intentional choice by you, or how much did
Yeah.
went into the tracking of this album?
Well, it was intentional to place those there once we were done with all the writing and had everything, looking at all the songs and how they fit together.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted the record to start kind of on a simpler note and start working its way towards this complexity. It's almost like like a five-course meal. You got your starter and your amuse bouche and your the appetizer, and you work to the entree, and then the bananas come out on fire at the end. So it's kind of like looking at it like that a bit.
Tell me about this artwork. It's very striking. It's kind of it's like you're looking out of a cave to this beautiful sort of reddish sunset across a lake. What went into that? How did you find it? How did that come about?
Well, it looks good with you in it right now, I have to. Iconic part of the album cover there. um, the idea for the artwork came about when COVID was really starting to ramp up, and it was like a oh no kind of moment. Here we go, and we're all in lockdown, and it's like, what is this? And so the idea came to me of how crazy this is and how we need to, we need that light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing, and we need to get back to our real world. So started imagining this dark cave that we're sort of all in, looking out at a beautiful world we used to know and want to get back to. So I kind of sketched that out on a piece of paper in a very crude way and sent it into the management and said, can you move this along to the art department and see if there's anything here? And they just jumped on it and did an amazing job. It's better than I could have imagined.
Now, did you shop this to Frontiers, or did Frontiers come in and ask you if you were working on anything? Because I know I just talked to Robert Barry a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned, that Frontiers is very sort of proactive, and kind of came to him originally about the 3.2 project, and I just
Yeah.
wondered, how much involvement did they have?
Well, I've had a long, good relationship with Frontiers over these many years now, going back to, um, producing the John Wetton solo album "Raised in Captivity" on Frontiers, and then Circa and Yoso, of course, and these other things. So um, they're just allies of what I do, and it seemed like the right home for the record. They were into it, and that's what we wanted. So it was just a good fit all the way around.
Um, and do you know the artist name that came up with this artwork?
It escapes me as we sit here. only because I've been doing so many interviews that my mind is a little bit shot at this point in the day.
I'll have to look at the I have to look at the CD when I get it.
Right? I know. Sorry about that. He did an amazing job, that's for sure.
Did they also create the nice art, the Arc of Life word mark? Did they come
The
up with that
logo,
logo?
yeah, yeah, I like that logo. It's looking good. It's looking good.
Why Arc of Life? Was that something that just been rattling around in your brain, or did you guys come up with that
Well,
together?
picking band names is a total nightmare. And I've been in a lot of bands and I picked a lot of names, and it's always such a nightmare because not only are you writing down everything that could be on a list somewhere, it's like then you've got all your friends piping in with their ideas, and after a while, man, you're just fried on it. And I don't know, I was outside one day just sort of looking around and pondering life as you do, and wasn't thinking band name, but just started thinking about arcs of things, careers, a life, you know what I mean? Wildlife and plant life. Everything kind of has its beginning, its middle, and its end, which is its arc, and how these things are all connected. And don't ask me why I was thinking about these things, other than getting older. You just start thinking about weird stuff like this.
Yeah.
And the name Arc of Life just popped into my head. So I ran it by the guys and Derek Schulman, who was also kind of advising me on things at that point, and everybody liked it. And I was the last one coming to the table because by then I was so programmed in my mind to find a name. I kept looking and looking. I threw a couple of other ideas at the band, and everybody just kind of said, "Don't even worry about it. We need to be Arc of Life. That's just a good name." So we decided to stick with it. And which is, I'm the most surprised out of all, in all these interviews that I'm doing, which are many, that people like the name as much as they do. Because I was sort of the last one coming. I thought of it, but I was the last one coming to the party. It's kind of funny. It's like, hey, Mikey, he likes it.
It's the other opposite end of the spectrum from Yoso, I think, maybe.
Yeah, it's just another one of those names. I mean, Conspiracy, I thought was a very cool name for me and Chris to have, and Circa, I love Circa. It's just got a cool sound to it. Yoso, Logic, World Trade. I've always been proud of the band names. I've never had to say a band name where I'm like, so, but it's tough, it's like, could you imagine going back to when somebody said, what do you think of a band name? And you say, well, how about Yes? And it's not taken. It's like a three letters, Now it's like everything, when you come up with something, everything's taken. So
yeah,
that's the other fact. You think you're onto something. It's like, got it. And well, sorry, someone has that. So all those factors played into why I guess we ended up with Arc of Life, but I'm glad everybody likes it,
Billy, where do you do your best thinking?
I don't know. It's strange, but when I drive in my car, which I do quite a bit of out here in California, it's those, you do a lot of driving in LA, generally speaking, to get around. And that's when there's no one talking to me. There's no one calling me. I'm in my car. I got my killer stereo system that I've had pumped up and listening to rough mixes. That I do a lot of writing in the car where I can think, and a lot of ideas come from just cruising down the road and your mind sort of wanders. So I don't know, in the car, I'd have to say in the car.
Do you have a favorite track on this album?
I like all of the tracks a lot. It's hard to pick a favorite one. I mean, I think the most quirky and unique one is just in its own way, which we talked about, is Siri.
Yeah.
Just because it's rhythmically, I like the groove. It's coming from another place. The fretless bass is really sexy sounding, and it gives it a weird kind of vibe to it. And just the lyrical content, remembering how that came about, I could picture the hotel room, and you know what I mean? It's just, so it just sticks with me, that one.
As someone who works with technology a lot, do you welcome this new era where you're talking to your phone and you're talking to your little Echo Dot on the counter and things like that?
Well, I mean, I don't mind talking to my phone when I can put it down and it's off, and I know it's not sitting there listening to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not into the toaster spying on my conversation with my girlfriend. So I like technology to help us and assist us where we want it. And obviously it's an amazing thing, and it's only going to get more amazing. There is that aspect of AI that crosses over into scary, because I look around on YouTube and look at some of the DARPA stuff or Boston Dynamics, and you look at what these robots are doing. It's amazing, and it's also kind of scary, So we'll just have to see where it goes. Hopefully, it remains in skillful, compassionate hands, the programmers, and we can carry on and exist with these things, because that's what's going to happen.
Exactly. Now, I know with the way things are going to start to improve as more people get vaccinated, but right now there's really no live music scene. There's no gigging, there's no touring, in terms of what you guys are used to doing. Is there a plan at some point to take Arc of Life on the road?
Well, as soon as there's a road to take, we will be heading towards it. And we definitely, that was one of the things we all discussed before joining and saying yes, is that we want to play live. We want to take this on the road. So that is our intention. The good news is, we're managed by the same team who does Yes and Asia. I'm in all three of those. So there's a way for them to work the calendar between all three of those that doesn't conflict with each other, and all of them can go out there and do their things. So as soon as there's a place to go, we shall go.
You touched on this, just now about, the sort of natural breaks and coming together. What is life like as a member of Yes these days?
Well, right now it's a lot of Oculus Quest 2, because there's not a whole hell of a lot to do other than that, which I'm getting quite good at. Just writing this out and looking forward to the Relayer tour, which is where we were heading into. And there's some exciting things coming down the road with Yes beyond that, which I can't really get into because the way the band sort of runs. But there's if you're a Yes fan, there's a lot of cool things coming down the pipe, that's for sure.
You knew Chris very well, obviously. Do you ever feel the pressure of filling his shoes in the band? I mean, is there a pressure on you to sort of pay tribute to him, to do things the right way, to honor his legacy?
Well, I carry that with me through this whole process, just by virtue of what I know he wanted, which is he wanted Yes to continue. Every now and then I'll see online in these Yes threads and forums and whatnot, someone saying Yes should have stopped when Chris died. And, the reality is that's exactly what he didn't want. So no, you've got that completely wrong. If we want to honor the man, what were his wishes, and let's go that way. So, I'm a passionate Yes fan going way, way back. I've been a member of the band before in a different capacity. I've toured with multiple versions of the band, and then the most unexpected thing happens with Chris asking me to do this. And it's hard to imagine, but he's been gone 6 years now. And that the front end of those 6 years were harder than the backside, because the front end was very sad. And, my friend had died, and here I am in his spot. And there were a lot of guilty feelings and feelings of sorrow, and looking at an audience and thinking, I know they want Chris here, but he can't be, but he wanted me, there's just so much going on in my head when I was playing this music that it was just mind-blowing and emotional and hard. And I got through it with the support of the band, who wanted me to do this, as well as, Chris wanted to, the whole band wanted me to do this. And also the fans who are really supportive at coming to these concerts, and, showing their support for the band, and showing their passion for it, wanting to go forward just like we do. And so that combination started turning my perspective around and gave me that confidence to sort of own it and go for it in the way that Chris wanted to. And that's what we do. So it's easier now to get on stage and go for it without feeling incredibly emotionally torn apart, because that's just what time does when it heals the people who we lose and time goes on. And but you carry their memory with you. And Chris is, I'm thinking about him every time I'm playing. I'm thinking about him because there's these amazing riffs that I'm playing. Sometimes I'll go to play something and I'll try to get it, and I'll know that he did it this way, and I'll give it a shot, and I can't do it that way, and I'll kind of go, God damn it, Chris, what did you leave me here to play? But there was one lick in Machine Messiah. It was like, oh my God, when I was learning it, I just sitting at home thinking, what the hell? But trying to just take his memory forward whilst defining my own place in the band, but which is odd because I'd already defined it before, but I just switched chairs. And so the whole thing's just freaking screwy and weird and filled with all kinds of fate involved in my career path. And it's just bizarre, but I'm comfortable in it now. And I still love the band like I did when I first fell in love with it when I was 12, so I'm in it to win it. And I know the other guys are too. So Arc of Life is another band that we're passionate about and we all pour our love into and want it to happen as well. Yes, I look at it like the mothership and we are the satellites. And as Jeff Downs has his project with Chris Braid out right now, and Steve has his trio, and Alan has White. I've had satellite versions of the band while I was in it. And so it's just another satellite, but it's one that we're very proud of, and we will take it on the road, as I said, and kind of dodge the other stuff and vice versa and make it all happen. It's all positive as far as I look at it, just more music.
Now, obviously, also cruises are not a thing right now, but it seems like there would be a natural tie-in with Cruise to the Edge to be able to get Arc of Life on that bill.
Could do. We'll just have to see how it pans out and how much we can take, for the lack of a better word, on board at the time. Where we're at with all of it up here and how it's working. We'll see.
I always like to ask this. It's a little bit of an odd question, but when somebody sits down and listens to this album start to finish, what is it that you would want them to take away at the end of that listening experience?
A feeling of wanting to return back to the top and hear it again in the same way that maybe you watch a movie the first time and you're amazed by it, but then you watch it the second time and you pick up layers you didn't really, oh wow, I didn't notice that or that or that. Because every time you come back at it, you're going to discover new things in there, little Easter eggs and whatnot. So I think just taking away the idea that they were transported somewhere for an hour, and so it's a nice escape. I mean, I know when I was a kid and wanted to just escape, I put on Tales of Topographic Oceans and just go, and put on those headphones and just kind of drift off with the music. So I think if the listener does that and gives it a shot like that, they'll find a sort of similarity in terms of like a sonic adventure taking you away somewhere.
Well, talk about your layers and your sonic adventure. Topographic Oceans definitely qualifies as that.
Right. Yeah.
What's out there that's new that is kind of that you're grooving on? Is there anything new and exciting that you're listening to these days?
I listen to so much music while I'm working and do so much stuff in production and sessions and just constantly staying busy making music that when I'm done, kind of like listening to music is not something I want to do a whole lot of. So I'm not really up to snuff on what the new stuff is. I mean, I'll stumble into things that to me seem new only because I'd never heard it before, but it's been around already. And people look at me and go, what? That's been around forever. There's a band that I discovered accidentally called Aurora that I've been digging. And there's a song called Running with the Wolves that's quite interesting. And the vocals are like kind of Kate Bush sort of vibe to it. And there's a Gabriel feel underneath there. And I didn't know who they were, but they've been around a while, I guess. But I just discovered it, and it was pretty cool. So every now and then I'll stumble into something like that, but I'm not too knowledgeable about what the current flavor is in prog right now. I don't know.
All right, well, Arc of Life comes out on Friday, February 12th. And it's obviously it's available on physical copy through Frontiers Records, all the, I guess, Amazon and all the normal places, all the
Mhm.
streaming sites too.
I'd imagine it's the full on, assault on all fronts. Wherever it's sold these days, I'm sure that's where you'll find it. Spotify, wherever that is.
Anything else you want to plug while we're here?
Well, just can't wait to get this album out after what has been a very long run to get it going. I mean, as I said, we started this in 2017 and here we are. So just super excited for people to hear it and hope that it, gives them a good vibe. I think we could all use that right now. So if it does that, I'm a happy camper, because that's what music is. It's a blessing to be able to make and to be able to share, so.
Yeah. All right, Billy Sherwood, thank you so much for being on Michael's Record Collection. Appreciate your time, and best of luck with Arc of Life, and hopefully getting back on that road someday.
I hope so. I'll go out there and pave it myself if we have to.
There you go.
Thanks, man.
All
Take care,
right.
brother.